Good morning, fellow students and teachers, and anyone who wants to learn how to sketch linear graphs with gradient and y-intercept. Now, I'm going to be teaching you what a gradient is, what the y-intercept is, and how to create a graph with these two elements. Let's go into this right now. Now, as usual, y is our answer for sketching linear graphs. And to get this answer, we have to do mx plus c, as m being our gradient and c being our y-intercept, and m equal to our rise over run. And I'll show you what that is and how to work this out just into the next slide. Example 1. How are we going to put this formula into this graph? Well, let's do this right now. Now, we know this as the gradient, and we know this as the y-intercept. Now, what do we do now? So, first of all, let me just tell you something quick. Now, this is going to be the rise. This is going to be the run. Easy. 2 over 1 as x equaling to 1. But we don't need to know that, as I'm betting you probably know that already. Now that we know that as rise and run, let's go ahead and plot this. But before we plot, remember, we have to put our y-intercept, which is positive 1. So we'll go ahead here and put positive 1 on the y-axis, because this is where the point or the line is actually going to meet and intercept with the y-axis. So there is our point right there. And now we have to go and rise by 2. So we're going to go up by 2 and run by 1. Go ahead, run by 1. Now, let's just say if there was a negative there, we would actually go down by 2, as it's the opposite. But we don't have a negative there. But let's say if there was a negative over here too, then that would be, instead of going right, you probably know this, you go left. Now, let's plot our line. And over at this point, this is where it intercepts with the y-axis, and that's why it's called the y-intercept. There you go. And there you have your gradient. Let's go on to a more challenging example. Example 2. Now, this is where it gets even more harder. We got 2 negatives and 1 positive. If you saw that one right there, then that means you are getting pretty good at the subject already. Now, to put this formula onto this graph, easy. Now, we know negative 2 as being our gradient, and negative 1 being our y-intercept. So what are we going to do? First, plot where our negative 1 is on the y-intercept or the y-axis, so that the line can intercept with the y-axis, making our point negative 1 as our y-intercept. Now, as our gradient right there being our rise, and this being our run, it's negative 2 over 1. Rise and run. Now, so because it's a negative, what do we do now? Do we go up or down? Well, as I said previously, when it's a negative, you don't go up by 2. Instead, you go down by 2. And as usual, we just have a positive 1, so we'll just go positive 1. Now, we can put our line. And there you have it. That is how to plot a linear graph with the gradient and y-axis. And this being our gradient. Now, I got this formula for you to do at home with a negative 2x plus a 3. And just remember, this being our gradient and this being our y-intercept. And I'm not going to tell you any further because you're going to do the rest at home. Bye guys, and I'll see you next time in another video on how to learn in maths.